लाइफ में ना ब्लैक होता था और वाइट होता था. सही है, गलत है, that's it. अब मैंने सीख लिया है कि कुछ भी सही और गलत नहीं है. Like literally, there are not even 1% circumstances in life that are black or white. Everything is grey. तो जैसे कहते हैं ना, वो शादियाँ बड़ी सक्सेसफुल होती है जिसमें प्यार होता है, वैसे ही आई थिंक वो करियर्स बड़े सक्सेसफुल होते हैं जिसमें यू टर्न अराउंड एंड मीट समथिंग दैट यू रियली लव. Grief has a propensity to either completely combust a family and split it, or it can make you come much closer as a unit. When we talk about therapy, we generally talk about relationship therapy, career therapy, or how we feel. There's a completely different format called grief therapy, which actually talks about how to handle grief, where they'll tell you how to overcome it, where they'll do a lot of family counseling when it comes together. So now that I know about these things, I'd like to talk about them.
What are the 3 things that we can learn from the younger generation?
Oh my God, they're very clear about what they want. They learn new things and they pick up new stuff and they don't gloat about it. Like today, if I learn a new language today, I'm gloating about it for the next 20 years. But they don't. It's so normal for them. The day you believe your time is gone, it has truly gone. And when we spoke about manifestations, the day you say our time has gone, you're manifesting it. Stop it. Your time is not gone.
Hi, my name is Shobha Rana. Welcome to the Journey Within podcast, where we deep dive into the personal growth journeys of our guests. In this show, we explore the experiences, insights, and lessons learned from individuals who have embarked on a journey of self-discovery through life's ups and downs, finding purpose and meaning, and ultimately becoming the best versions of themselves. Join us as we reflect on life, gain wisdom, and inspire each other to keep growing in our journey within. Today, I have with me one of India's most loved RJs who started her career about 20 years ago. And she has this absolutely unique sense of talking on radio, her nonchalance, her intelligence, and her life experiences are extremely entertaining and yet insightful. So let's meet her. Please welcome Rj Ginnie.
Hi Shobha, I'm still wondering after your opening if I am the best version of myself. No.
Why do you say so?
I'm still trying to figure out, am I the best version? Is this the best version? Is the best yet to come? Will it ever come? Still wondering about that, but thank you very much for having me on your show.
It's a pleasure to have you, but why do you think you are not the best version of yourself now? I'm just hooked to that question.
Because I think that the moment you believe that you've reached a pinnacle or you've reached the best or you've become the best or whatever you can be is the moment you finish. So I don't know if I ever want to be the best version of myself, but am I, in another context, the best version of what I can be? I doubt.
I think there are 2 worlds that the best version of yourself relates to. One is the world that you have already lived, the journey that you have already traveled. So today, standing here at this point, do you see that you are the best version of yourself from that journey that you've lived? And one version is that going ahead, that, the aspirations or dreams or whatever you have for yourself. Do you think you are the best version of yourself for that?
So, neither cases, no.
Yeah. No. I don't know why you undersell yourself so much, because I think you are one of the most wisest, you are one of the most intelligent person that I know. And not intelligence in terms of how the book or dictionary defines it, but also through the experiences of life, the kind of lens that you look at life. It's very inspiring, I started listening to you on Tutu Meow Meow.
In Meow, yes.
Yeah, in Meow.
The first time that I started doing commercial radio.
And you know what? At that point, I think Meow was the only radio channel that had this format of not having as many ads or music, just chat show kind of a format.
It's talk radio.
Talk radio, right? And it was just so interesting to have people like you coming in, just talking for hours. And at the end of that conversation, I could find myself into your stories. I could find myself into your, experiences. Even when you were cribbing about things, I was like, yaar, ye to mere saath bhi hota hai na. So, how did you land this opportunity?
So, right now there's this person called Shehnaz Gill who's doing a movie with Salman Khan called Kisi Ka Bhai Kisi Ki Jaan. And she just gave an interview where she said that Salman Khan called me and I thought it was a prank and, I'd blocked his number and everything. And everybody around me, because I work in a radio station, said, Arre, it's so fake. But it could be true because it's happened to me. So I was a journalist and I used to do All India Radio Pay, 5 shows in a month, okay? And somebody one day called me and said, hi, I am the CEO of XYZ company. And I looked at them. Dude, stop kidding. No CEO has so much time that they're going to randomly call people. Put the phone down.
I know the CEO, by the way.
Yes.
We both know.
We both do. Then he called up again and I again said that it's a prank call and I don't find it funny. Then he made his secretary call me and say that, look, we are really starting and would you come and meet us? Which is when, just out of sheer embarrassment, I went. I had never thought of radio as an alternative career. Radio was not something that I was ever looking at. And like all good things in life that are never planned and just happen to you on random Tuesday afternoons, this also happened to me. And that started the journey of something that's not ended as yet. And I'm very glad for it.
And I'm very glad that you are on radio because you bring this absolutely refreshing perspective. Like I said in my intro, your nonchalance is something that I absolutely adore and love. And not just me. You have millions of listeners who tell you that on an everyday basis.
Thank you.
So when you started, at that time, radio jockeying was not a career that you aspired for yourself. It was something that happened to you. So like that, it just happened to you and you made the best of it. And today, credit to people like you and many others who held their ground so firmly and who gave the space, the breadth, the life that it needed. And now it has become a legit career option. There are courses that are teaching you how to do this in a better way and all of that.
So I've just believed that life for me, I don't know how life is for everybody else because everybody's journey of life is very different. And life for me has been that, you're a car that's traveling on a highway and you think you have a destination in mind and you're driving very aram se towards it because aapko pata hai aapki destination seedhi hai and you don't even realize it. I've always thought that God just picks up the car, puts it in another direction. You don't even know the direction's changed and it goes in a completely different way where you weren't expecting things to happen or anything. And my whole life has been that. Every single major decision of my life is not what I planned it to be. It just happened by chance, and I don't know how that chance happened. Shobha, I think inherently, all of us are very good at one thing. And unfortunately, in India, I think it happens outside because there are lesser people, they're given more chances, etc. But in India, हम बहुत जल्दी careers उठा लेते हैं class 10th के बाद. And I don't think we have many options, especially the very intelligent kids, right? They go to IITs, they become doctors, they go for their IAS, or whatever it is, a bank job, etc. But in my entire career, I must have spoken to millions of people because I take callers every day, I go out and meet people. I don't think even 70% people I've met till date really like their jobs. And that is, I think, the saddest part because you see, you're going to spend 10 hours minimum at your office space, thanks to Indian working standards.
Or
might
more.
as well do something you enjoy. But जैसे प्यार होता है ना, लोगों को अभी भी इंडिया में ऐसा नहीं लगता कि शादी प्यार की वजह से होती है. शादी प्रोक्रिएशन होती है, शादी दो families का मिलन होता है. And we might be sitting in really posh cities and thinking, no, it's all about love. But let's face it, 70% marriages are about convenience and have nothing to do with love. That's what I think careers are. I think they're just chosen कि अरे इसमें पैसे आएंगे, ये आपको एक stable life देगा, this is the career option and people choose it without realizing are they ever going to love it. So जैसे कहते हैं ना वो शादियाँ बड़ी successful होती है जिसमें प्यार होता है, वैसे I think वो careers बड़े successful होते हैं जिसमें you turn around and meet something that you really love. And I've just been very lucky. I love talking, like you can see. I've been going on non-stop. And I found a profession that actually did that, and also is a profession which is very good for listening. It's very good for changing perspectives and not others, your own perspective. I think my whole journey, what I used to say on Meow, I laugh about it a lot of times because I was such a child to say silly things like that. And life experiences, other people's experiences have taught you so much more different. So yeah, that's where.
What are these different things that your career as an RJ have taught you, speaking to so many people, gaining from their experiences? What are the things that you have discovered about yourself?
What I've discovered about myself, I think initially when I started RJing, I thought like everybody else, RJing is about talking. And over a period of time, you realize that it's not. It's about listening. You can't build a conversation with anybody unless you're listening to them, taking up cues of what they're saying. Also, a lot of our communication is never through words. You know, my emotions might not come out as words. What I'm really thinking, my thought process might not come out as finite words. But when I'm listening, I can actually see a lot of that. I can see a lot of your body language. So I've learned that art more. I've learned to be quieter more. I've learned to give people their spaces. And also, I think the biggest change that I've had in me is that when I started radio, which was a very young age, लाइफ में ना ब्लैक होता था और वाइट होता था. सही है, गलत है, दैट्स इट. अब मैंने सीख लिया है कि कुछ भी सही और गलत नहीं है. लाइक लिटरली देयर आर नॉट इवन 1% circumstances in life that are black or white. Everything is gray. So yeah, that has been the biggest change. So I can understand what you're saying, and even if people think it's wrong, but you've done it for some reasons, it is my job to understand those reasons and maybe understand who you are instead of sitting in judgment. I think that's another thing that my job's taught me. Don't judge.
Yeah, I think that is one of the very important lessons that can come out of active listening.
Yes.
When you listen better, you realize, or you sort of get into this journey of exploring why somebody did what they did instead of questioning it in that way.
Instead of questioning it from your belief structure, right? Because everybody else has grown up differently. You and I have a completely different upbringing. Our thoughts are different. So how do I judge you based on my thoughts? It's just wrong.
True.
Yes.
Yeah, exactly. Ginnie, you talked about all of us being blessed with that one thing that we are or we can be good at.
Yes.
Right? You believe in that completely?
I believe everybody. I believe everybody has a unique gift. And I don't think that most of us give it a chance.
Yeah, that leads me to my next question, that how do you discover your uniqueness and how do you groom it to stay relevant through the years?
दुनिया में ना 2 तरीके के लोग होते हैं. एक जिनको प्यार हो जाता है और फिर वो शादी कर लेते हैं एक इंसान के साथ. वो मुझे कभी समझ नहीं आते क्योंकि जब आपने ट्राई नहीं किया किसी और चीज़ को तो आपको कैसे पता चलेगा. आई डोंट मीन दैट इन अ रॉन्ग सेंस. आई डोंट मीन गो ट्राई आउट मेन और वुमेन थ्रू आउट. बट यू नो यू नीड टू सॉर्ट ऑफ be with a few people to finally find the right person. And I think that's with life and it's with career choices that you got to fidget a little bit. You know, तो मैंने जब शोभा स्टार्ट किया था ना, I was a journalist. मैंने कुछ साल of journalism, very few years I spent in it. पर मुझे पता था by those years that I'll never be somebody who's spectacular at it. I could possibly be above average at it. If I kept on at it and kept on doing it diligently day after day, I'd be above average. But I knew I wouldn't ever hit the ball out of the court in this one. So I knew it wasn't for me. Then I tried something else and it wasn't for me. And then I tried radio and immediately it clicked. And luckily, possibly, I was in that place where my parents weren't after that, Are, tum financials kya kar rahe ho? Why are you not trying? I think the fact that my parents had very little expectations, ki kuch bhi kar sakti hai, really helped. So I think I was given that chance. I don't think, for example, my brother in the same family was given that chance. Because he was very good at studies, so he went into an engineering college and he did his MBA. I think he should have taken more risks in life, but I think that's a good part of not being a very straight A student. I think we get more chances. So if you're not a straight A student, good for you, man. Life is open for you.
Right. And discovering yourself happens through allowing yourself that opportunity to try different things consistently.
Consistently. And you'll know. You know it, right? I think everyone knows it. जैसे हमें प्यार के लिए पता चल जाता है यही है. It could be wrong. It might not last a lifetime. I don't think anything lasts a lifetime. But at that point, if it feels right, then you know that you want to invest in it.
But are there days now in your career that you don't want to go or you don't have as much energy as you have on the other days?
No, luckily. So like you were asking me about work. So my work is divided into 2 halves. One is my show. So luckily in my show, 95% times, I still want to go. I still want to do it. I'm very energetic. I'm very happy to go pick up the phone, start talking to people, start chattering. It's not become less. And I'm very grateful for it. I'm very scared till when will it last. But it's lasting. So my fingers are crossed for it. Do you have bad days? Everybody has bad days. And do you have days when you are disheartened? Of course. There are still days. On my radio show, I have to ask people to connect with me on a topic. There are days when you don't get calls and you're like, oh my God, this is terrible. There are days when for weeks you're not getting sort of traction because you see, radio is also a background medium. People might be bored or whatever be the case. There are days when you will have doubts. But I think those are great days because they're the ones that will give you energy to bounce back.
What do you do on those days? How do you
I crave.
tell yourself?
I crave, I cry, I eat, I go out with friends. I'll do all of those things that I should do to just fill in. So it's the empty teapot story, so I take it very seriously. I don't mean it just with food, but literally, the empty teapot story is you can't pour chai out of a teapot that's empty. And I think a lot of us do that constantly. We're so busy appeasing people, appeasing things that we're empty from within. So on days that you're having bad days, anytime, or you're having a bad phase, maybe it's your ishara to say that maybe you're also getting empty and you need to fill yourself up with pampering, with good stuff you like, with books, with going out, reading in parks, with spending time with children, with doing whatever it is that you like. But yeah, refresh yourself, fill in yourself, and maybe you'll be back to bouncing.
Very
and
well said,
giving
you know.
it back.
Ginny, just take me through that one turning point in your life that absolutely changed everything for you and gave you sort of a perspective to look within and find answers for yourself.
So for me, a huge change happened when I lost my dad. It was a sudden loss. I was always the spoilt brat of the family, and I was the kinds who would call up, like hit your car, call up your dad, and say that gaadi thuk gayi, sorry, and he'd get the car, or you'd lose things and he'd be there, and you didn't have to take up responsibilities. You were just given lectures every day that you don't know how to do your finances, and financial help was given to you, and you were told where to make FDs, where to sign, and you just signed on things. That's all. Seems like a princess-like life at that point in time. And both me, my brother, my mum, we all had that sort of a life. And then one fine day, my dad wasn't there anymore. And this is also a time in life when professionally, I was going through a turmoil because I had taken a decision to go to management. I had changed jobs and I thought I don't want to be an RJ any longer. And I had gone to the management, and on my third day, I realized that I've made the biggest blunder and it couldn't be rectified. Because if you've been hired for a position, you've been hired for a position. It doesn't matter. So I was in that stage where there were people reporting to me, but who were doing the job that I really wanted to do. And I always thought that I could do it better than them, and that was a problem. And I was having terrible things, and then I lost that, and my brother was also getting married at that time. And I think at that point in time was the first time when I had to take onus as an individual of the family, definitely, of finances, definitely, of realizing that you had to take your own decisions, of being responsible for your own decisions. And I don't know, I think anybody who loses their parents, at whatever age it is, you suddenly grow up. Adulting is very, very tough. So I think that's the turning point of my life, which defined things professionally, which is when I was ready to take some risks, to start taking responsibilities, to start taking onus. It also wanted me to try out new things. It also made me want to stick on to some things. And it was a very period full of strife, but it worked well.
How did you come out of that whole feeling of despair when such a huge thing has happened to you? And I'm sure at that point it's very difficult to see the light at the end of the tunnel. These all are the learnings that we see in the hindsight. But at that point, what is it that you did to overcome that phase?
I didn't overcome it. I don't think I overcame it for the longest time. I did what most of us do, which is to start piling on other layers on top. Right? It's the classic rug theory. अगर आपको रग का carpet अच्छा नहीं लग रहा है तो उसको बिस्तर के नीचे घुसेड़ते रहो, and then one fine day it just comes tumbling out. I started doing there was a lot of things to be done at home. There was somebody who needed to take onus, to start taking up responsibility, to start doing things, and I think I became that person who was constantly doing things. I think that's the only point in my time where I worked physically very hard to sort of move on. But over the years, I don't think I've completely gone over that situation. There are, like, for for a few years after that, I don't remember that I could see my dad or have memories of him for the longest time. Because, that memory just becomes limited to one single day or one single moment of your life. And that memory just becomes so big. So I think it's taken me a very long time. And
But at the time, are you saying that you used distraction as sort of a coping mechanism?
it was a coping mechanism. At that point in time, I couldn't afford to give in to grief. I knew my mother was grieving. My brother was supposed to get married. There were things that were happening at home. There were financials to be sorted out. You don't have so much time. And
But why do you get into this zone? Nobody asks this of us, but why do we take this onus on ourselves in that very moment and not allow ourselves to express grief?
I think, no, it's not true. There were 3 people in my family who were going through the same grief. And I don't think it was very individual the way we all took it. So I don't think that everybody takes it up. I don't think that everybody has the same way of dealing with it. My mom had a very different way of dealing with it. She had it the hardest. I had a very different way of dealing with it. My brother had a very different way of dealing with it. My father's brother had a very different way of dealing with it. So I saw everybody dealing with it differently. It takes a different time period. I don't think you can compare grief ki, "Arey, he became normal or she became normal. Why don't you?" I don't think, luckily, that didn't happen in my house.
No, I get that, different people grieving in their own way. But why do we distract ourselves and use a coping mechanism at
because
that
that's
point?
me. That was me individually. Because I think that's the way I knew how to cope. My brother coped in a very different way. My mother coped in a very different way. They didn't do this. They actually coped on it in a more holistic way, so to speak.
How do you see that now? Do you think that you should have allowed yourself to grieve at that point and, not distracted yourself on a path that was
I honestly
leading you?
don't know. I honestly don't know. When you look back at time and you think that maybe you could have reacted differently, but today I'm a very different person than what I was then. And at that point in time, certain things needed to be done, and I felt that doing that would give me a format of getting out of this situation faster. And possibly I chose that path. If I was in that same situation, how would I react? I don't know. Because again, I'm going to compare to what happened at a certain age, at a certain time. Would I react the same way today? No.
I'm just actually wondering about this human psychology, because a lot of us do it. As soon as something big hits us, our train hits us in the face,
We don't know how to deal with it.
Yeah, we
think
take
don't
the
know.
other way of distracting ourselves into busier careers or into a relationship that's probably, again, not the best way to do it. Something else to just find some sort of an escapism or a
I think
coping
it becomes
mechanism
very
for
big
that.
to deal with. So when something really big hits you, you don't know how to deal with it. And that's your way of coping with it. But I don't think it lasts very long. I think it's a small distraction that you're giving yourself. That, you need just that coping mechanism that, please let me just breathe. It's like this, when something happens or a tragedy happens, and I hope nobody has to go through tragedies in life. But the day it happens, when you sleep that night, you can't sleep. You just cannot sleep because you think that you will never sleep. And then when you wake up with a sense of normalcy because your body and your mind has forgotten it for that time period. And then it suddenly hits you. And that ton that hits you at that point in time is awfully huge. So you just want to escape it somehow or the other. And I realized that I'm not a very religious person. So in my family, I think everybody came together to protect us. So there's a whole period of mourning for 4 days and then 11 days and then 13 days, and the family was there. I think it gave us all a lot of time of being huddled. I don't think without that whole family protection of the entire extended family coming into it and helping us, I would have been able to cope so better. Or mom would have, or my brother would have, or maybe we would have, I don't know. Unless you're in a situation, you don't know. But I think that the customs also are such that they will slowly bring you to the fore. I remember when we went to Gurdwara, they said that from today, you're not supposed to cry, or you're not supposed to remember with a sense of grief. You're supposed to remember them happily. It doesn't happen. But yes, as compared to the 11 days before, you're much better. So the best thing about life is it moves on, and it'll move on differently at different levels for everybody. So some people will cope with it with defense mechanisms or getting into relationships or getting into work, or for example, getting into a lot of physical activity. But it's just your way of distracting it, but the mind doesn't allow it after a point in time. So you will deal with it, but ठीक है ना, सबका अपना अपना time है. The way you can deal with it, the best way you do.
Exactly, that is what I wanted to dissect through this conversation with you. कि जब हम उस वक्त पे उस grief को नहीं deal कर रहे होते, and we take an alternate path, which is a coping mechanism or a defense mechanism or an escape route, which could be our career or a relationship, whatever. And if that thing clicks, let's say ना हमने बहुत ज़्यादा काम में अपने आप को डाल दिया और काम बिल्कुल रॉकेट की तरह निकल गया, and we are like, this is something that I'm good at and I'm great at. So from there you could have created a breakthrough for yourself career-wise.
Possibly.
But you have also learned to transform your grief or these difficult emotion wala time
You're pushing it into something else.
Into something else, right?
Absolutely.
So ये conditioning बढ़ती जाती है, तो फिर eventually we become such confused individuals that हमको शायद समझ ही नहीं आता है कि किस चीज़ को process कैसे करना है.
I think धीरे-धीरे, at least in my case, I can only speak about me because I know about me. It didn't happen like that. It did give me the push or the impetus to push myself into another field. But I do remember having moments of breakdown. I do remember going in for therapy. I do remember having a close-knit circle of friends. I do remember having a relationship, which did help me hold it all together. And I agree with that part, that at that time, whatever you choose also comes from a side sense of desperation. So you're very scared of letting go. That's also another loop I got into. But yes, and I think it happens. I wish it hadn't. I wish I would do things more organically. But that's the way life happened at that point in time. That's the way I knew how to deal with it. I wish somebody had possibly pushed me towards more therapy at that point in time.
Yeah.
But I don't think that more people were ready for it. There's also something called, when we talk about therapy, we generally talk about relationship therapy, career therapy, or how we feel. There's a completely different format called grief therapy, which actually talks about how to handle grief, where they'll tell you how to overcome it, where they'll do a lot of family counseling that comes together. So now that I know about these things, I'd like to talk about them more. But at that point in time, I didn't know so much. So I knew that I was seeking something. And luckily, I got pushed in the right direction, and I was very lucky for that. I did find somebody who really helped me. But I wish more people would know about this. And if anything like this, losing somebody is always tough. As a family, and I also believe, I don't know why we're talking about this so much, but I also believe that grief has a propensity to either completely combust a family and split it, or it can make you come much closer as a unit. And it's a very difficult choice because nobody is in their right 100% state of mind to know ki, what are you doing, how are you communicating, what is it that the other person is feeling, because your emotions are as harsh or as strong as theirs. So that combustion can also happen, and you could completely split apart and not talk, and I've seen that happen in families. And luckily enough with us, it made us closer. And thank God for it.
That is, I think, one of my biggest fear of losing whatever that anchors you as a family together, as a unit together. Like you said, complete combustion can happen out of it, or you can come closer. So it's just two very, very...
It's opposite. It's
worlds.
Always going to be opposite. And as many people as I see that true. That it either brings you together. And I don't know what it is, honestly. That either makes you come together or go apart, because I don't think that you're in the state of mind to process it. I don't know how it happens. But either of these two things will happen, so you've got to be careful about it.
Ginnie, you also mentioned that it became very difficult for you to let go of certain people at that point because you found some sort of solace in them, some sort of comfort in them. Did it become eventually detrimental for you, or what was it?
I don't know when things become detrimental or not, because in hindsight is only when you can see, when you have that perfect 10 by 10 vision to see whether it was detrimental or not. But what it made me do was to cling on to certain people, because at that point I knew that my anchors had shifted. So it did definitely make me want to cling to a few people, to cling to a few relationships. I did. And possibly today when I look at it, I know that I was wrong. I should not have. Maybe, and I could see possibly flags. But at that point in time, I couldn't. But I'm very glad for those relationships. Honestly, at this point in time, today also, however they worked out, the fact was that they were the most instrumental in making me survive that phase. So yes, should it have changed? Yes, like I say, we have perfect 10 by 10 vision in in hindsight. But at that time, without those as well, maybe I could have survived it. I don't know. I think we are much stronger than we believe we are. And I think ultimately we do survive everything, and it's not a good thing at times, I feel. But yeah, at that point in time, definitely I needed them.
Ginny, what were the not so obvious kind of red flags that you saw in your relationship back then?
No, it's a bunch of relationships that I was talking about, whether it was with friends, whether it was with extended family, whether it was with anything. And I think that I went to a point where to retain those, if you generally put in 20% effort, I was ready to put in 200 because I was so scared of losing it. Right? I would go flat out because I needed those people. And those people were nice people, generally. They weren't bad people. But I think when you go out 200% for anybody, you just give them so much of leverage and you give them so much of importance that you sort of lose yourself.
There's a clear imbalance of power in that relationship.
Absolutely. You lose yourself in the relationship. And I think that is not correct. I don't think you should. But then I think that I have a propensity of doing this, which is why if I get into a relationship, I know that as an individual, as somebody who talks on air, as an individual, I have very strong points on how women are equal to men. But I notice, and it's possibly something that we've always had or grown up with, but when I'm with a man in a relationship, I always make the man more important.
With me, even with siblings, even with my brother, we put them on some sort of a pedestal just like that.
Manche, we do... with me and my brother, we have a very equal relationship. But yes, I will pamper him more because, I don't know whether it's because he's younger, he's a man or whatever. But at least in my romantic relationships also, I've noticed that you tend to put them on a pedestal, which is so wrong. And I mean, you're so conscious about it. But I think it's just the whole setup. And, you have to consciously every day tell yourself no. So it does become better. But unchecked, it could become unhinged. It's a scary process.
With me, I like being this person who has this ability to love to my full capacity and even be okay with not having my complete say into certain things. Not because other person expects me to, but just because I want to do it out of love.
But what we call as love is social conditioning to believe that he deserves it more. It's a fact. It's like, I'll give you a simpler example, which is not in your perspective, so maybe you'll understand it better. A lot of women say that we are equal to men, and then they say that we like it when we have an equal relationship because my husband helps me with the housework. And the moment you say your husband helps you with your housework, you are saying that it is basically your job and he's being kind enough to help you. Right? So for example, if you're going somewhere and I help you do something, you'll be like, Ginnie, it was nice that she helped me because it wasn't part of my job.
You've put them already on the pedestal and given them the advantage of...
Exactly. I think that all of us do this, right? We believe that it's love. We believe that we want to pamper them. We believe that this is what I'm saying. I know the right things.
Well, why don't we do them is my question.
Yeah, so you just got to be conscious of it constantly and put these filters in place and realize, nay, it's not because you love them. It's because we've been brought up. There's a certain amount of conditioning that we're doing. Nay. इक्वल है
वो बैलेंस क्रिएट करना आई थिंक वो बहुत ज़रूरी है
खुद के लिए भी बहुत ज़रूरी है आई थिंक
वी आर टॉकिंग अबाउट इंस्टिंक्ट्स वी आर टॉकिंग अबाउट who we inherently are and the kind of reactions that we give and do. But Ginnie, in this world that is evolving at such a fast pace, how do we even understand and know that what our perspective is?
I don't know. I think it's a daily thing. And I when people say that the world is evolving, the years are going by and things are changing, I'm like, dude, the last 3 years have changed everything. They've turned around everything, whether it's digital, whether it's the way money is spent, the way we all have become. I think it's a whole process. And every day is a new learning experience. You've got to believe that you have to be open to learning. Like, there was this whole word that somebody used in front of me and they said that, do you know what drip is? Shobha, do you know what drip is?
Drip is that IV thing that you inject into the thing?
No.
That water dripping?
Today's language, drip is when somebody's dressed very nicely.
Absolutely no idea. This is a different world that you are using these words in.
But I love finding out stuff like this because I think it just it makes you laugh, but it also keeps you connected with what the new world is coming in. And I think this is a silly example, of course. Simp. Oh God, that word had driven me up the wall. What is simp, and how are people simping? But then I found out.
Okay, no idea.
See, but the thing is that the whole deal is that you got to know things whether you use them or you don't use them, and you got to accept them with the same way that we accept things that you and I will tell each other with the newer generation. And that is the only way of survival, I think. That, you can't laugh at them. You will have to laugh with them. You'll have to understand where they're coming from. And you have to understand, one thing I've realized is that not much changes from generation to generation. Our basics, our emotions, our instincts remain the same. The language is changing, the garb is changing, the way we talk is changing. And that's basically superficial. So, get over the superficial, you'll be able to connect. But the day you feel that you can't connect, the day you feel that, oh, I don't belong to this generation, or the day you feel that, oh my God, this generation is going to overpower me because I am not equipped to deal with it, is the day when we'll die. So that's possibly the only way.
What are the 3 things that we can learn from the younger generation?
Oh my God, they're very clear about what they want. They're
Clarity.
very clear. They say it. And I love that about them.
And they are not apologetic about it at all.
They're not. And it's cool. It's okay. I love how they learn new things and they pick up new stuff and they don't gloat about it. Like today, if I learn a new language today, I'm gloating about it for the next 20 years. But they don't. It's so normal for them. I also love how open they are about talking about stuff that bothers them. I'm surrounded with a lot of younger people because I work in an industry which is a very young industry, and I like how they can put out their emotions. If you look at the digital space, kids are talking about grief, kids are talking about breakups, kids are talking about how they feel about their parents' behavior, they're talking about stuff that they are doing, they're not hiding stuff. I like that about them. I'm a fan of this generation.
And I think as am I, because I've gone through this whole phase of not being able to relate with this generation at all, to coming to a phase now where I absolutely love their perspective, their worldview, and the way they are just, going after the things that matter to them, irrespective of what the world tells them.
I think, irrespective of society is so good. I really, really like it.
Because this is something that we didn't do in our times at all. The world was different, or maybe we didn't have enough courage. Whatever it was, whatever we were cribbing about for our youth, I'm saying the times we are pretty young in our teenage and early 20s and stuff. Now the people today, the kids today are doing exactly that, and we have no right to not like them for being that.
I agree completely. The clothes that they're wearing, the statements that they're putting out, I think the art that they're creating, I think is fantastic.
It's fantastic.
It's good. Of course, there are really random things about their generation as well, as they were about us. But on the whole, I think every generation that comes up will come up with something better. And as long as you're open about it, it's fun.
Exactly. It's great to have that perspective, because that makes you that much more open to collaborating with these people and creating beautiful things together. And I'm not just speaking from a professional standpoint, but also in life in general, making friends with them, getting
I
their
just went out
worldview.
for this trip, which was an office trip, and I had to go out with these 21, 22-year-olds, and I was dreading it. Because I was like, I don't even know what they do. But the thing was that it was one of the funnest trips I've had, because I got out of my comfort zone completely. Because these kids would sing on the streets, they would sing at the airports, they would dance wherever. And because you were with them and you didn't want to be one of those really like, oh, she doesn't do anything, you wanted to be a part of it. And actually it was a lot of fun doing it. So I give them a chance, give yourself a chance with them, and I think that it's a lot of fun. But you can't be scared of them. Like you remember when we were growing up, we were scared of our elders, and therefore we wouldn't really have great communication with them. And now we realize that was
That
such a
wall
waste
is
of
sort
time.
of not there in that manner that it was earlier.
Yeah, and so we can't have the same wall with people who are in early 20s now.
We can't keep saying that we want this world to change and improve and yet operate with the same sort of variables and things.
Absolutely, be open, it's okay.
Yeah, moving on from that, Ginnie, I want to also talk about relationships, because you've been in a few and you've had your fair share of...
Actually,
experiences,
I haven't had so
learning,
many
etc.?
relationships. I've had possibly the least amount of relationships amongst my friend circle because I have a tendency of sticking on. So if I was with somebody and even if the relationship has run its course, then I will drag it for another year and a half. You know, like literally, because I hate letting go and I hate change at that level. And I will do everything in my hand to let it go because I'm like, "Arey, koi to hai."
But does this habit serve you?
Of course not. Of course not. I mean, I wish I was doing things that were just good for me. I do very few things that are very good for
But
me.
do you find a learning curve there, or you repeatedly again would do so?
I've literally removed myself from that scene so I don't repeat the same mistakes, which is not the smartest thing to do, which is quite a dumb thing to do, very honestly. But I've literally removed myself because I don't want to make the same things. I don't want to get into those situations. I know that I can change, but I haven't changed so much as a person. So I'm doing wrong. But yeah, through this podcast, you want to date me, please write in. Let's go for a date. I don't remember the last time I went on a date. I don't remember anybody asking me out for a date.
You have
So
been
would
single
wanna
for a
ask-
while now.
Yes, anybody want to ask me, please?
4 years.
Yes.
I am putting it out there that,
Yeah, please ask. But it's too scared.
yeah, too scared to be in a relationship now.
Yeah.
You know what, Ginny? One of the things that terrified me the most when I was coming out of my previous relationship was the fact that last time when I was single was 15 years ago.
And the world was a different place.
It was completely a different world back then. The terms like dating apps, hookups, Netflix and chill, let's find out, let's explore, hang out, and all of these things
This didn't exist.
weren't there at all. So to find myself single in a world that has changed so much, just to keep pace with it, and just the thought of keeping pace with it was terrifying.
Yeah, I know. I mean, I've tried dating apps where the first sentence is, "How are you?" You have a small conversation. And the next thing they'll say is, "So I'm in this hotel. Would you like to come on it?" What? No. No. But it's accepted and it's cool and it's okay.
And people do go out on
Of
these
course they do.
instinctive calls, and they end up finding some really good people also. It works in strange ways.
It works in very strange ways.
Yeah,
I know
yeah.
somebody who's found people matching on one of these dating apps when they were in the train. So, I mean, I've heard of really crazy stories. They haven't come true for me, unfortunately. But let's see.
Yeah, so and in fact, I've heard more positive stories than crazy ones, which just makes me
I've
wonder.
heard enough
that-
crazy, but a lot of positive stories.
Yeah.
A lot of positive stories.
Right. Because I think even if something crazy or something not to your liking happens, that ends there only with that one experience. But when something positive happens, you meet them a few more times, and then you have so much more to talk about and build on.
Absolutely. And I mean, it's just a place to meet people ultimately. So, yeah, yes, to meet.
So, are you on any of these dating apps?
I tried. It wasn't very good for me.
Yeah.
Oh no.
Why didn't you say
No,
write
it
things
was-
in your
it's-
bio? Or I don't know how it works. I don't even know the question.
It's very difficult. Okay, when anybody asks me in an interview, tell me something about yourself, I freeze. I don't know the answer to that. How am I expected to know what to write in a bio? And then people will tell you write in the bio stuff that makes you sound very exotic and nice, and yet very reasonable and very down to earth and very. Girl next door. And I'm like, that these are all words that mean opposites of each other. And then how do you have conversations? I've had friends try and hook me up on these sites, and it's not. No.
Yeah. I have a friend who made this best friend come therapist out of her Tinder date.
No.
She's like, I met him. I figured out that we can't go anywhere with a relationship.
we've become friends.
But we've become friends. It's been 5 years, and he's my sort of a therapist also. I talk to him every day, and I'm like, what is this parallel life going
Listen,
on?
I love it. I think, okay, friends also apply.
Yeah.
Yeah, not just friends with benefits. Friends can also apply.
On her.
Specify.
Whatever
All
app.
of the types can.
So Ginnie has made it like a very clear-cut announcement here that she's
Yeah, yeah.
single.
Enough.
She's okay for you to slide in her DMs. That's
Yes.
the term that they're using.
Yeah, slide into my DMs.
Slide into her DMs and
Slide
Whatever
into
else
my
that means.
Instagram DM.
whatever else that means.
Right, this is going to be a very exciting life. Thank you for your podcast, Shobha. I hope it
I'm
finds
also-
me one date at least.
I'm so awkward having this conversation also, only because I don't know what really to ask, because my experience here has been absolute zero. So I
No, I'm
don't know
like,
what
seriously,
to.
no. I'd be very happy to get a date out of this podcast, yes. What did you get out of your journey within a date?
Now the pressure is on
Strategy.
us to make it happen for
Please
you.
do. Manifest it. Another new word of this generation. Manifest everything.
But do you believe in that? Have you tried it?
I think manifestation or most things work if you really believe in it. I don't. So, one of my closest friends, she really believes in it. She's tried to convince me, but I think I'm too much of a cynic to want to believe in it. I think the day I want to believe in it, it'll happen. I've heard enough people tell me that it does happen because it's obviously about thoughts. It's about pushing thoughts in the universe. I don't get it, so I don't do it, but I believe it works for a lot of people.
Ginny, I like the way you have a clear understanding of your point of view and perspective. Where the world is running after this term manifestation, you have a very clear understanding of what it means to you. How do you build that perspective and clarity in your life?
I don't think I have a clear perspective about it. I know what I am as an individual. I think that just comes. There's a stage where you start accepting yourself or knowing yourself better. And I wish I could be less of a cynic, very honestly. But I know that I'm a stubborn cynic about a lot of things. And I don't give a lot of things a chance. And it's terrible. But the way of changing it is also through acceptance. पहले आप accept करोगे, फिर ही आप उसको change करोगे. So I'm going to try and change that about me. That is my next goal in life. To become more open to new experiences. Because if you already know anything and you're already cynical about stuff, you are
No, but I think over
becoming
the
the
years,
opposite of manifestation and manifesting the wrong things your way.
but I think over the years you have become pretty open to a lot of new things, like this working with the younger kids, going on the trip and having those experiences, and allowing yourself to experience all of this is also
I
a
think it
part
does.
of going with the flow, right?
I think going with the flow is something that also, you see, I think all of us have very different lives. So there were people who got married in their early 20s and they had kids. And I think when I meet them, I realize that for them, life is not, does not have the ability to open up so much because they have so many responsibilities. They're doing a lot of things. They're already so caught on with things that they don't want new experiences to really enter their life. And I don't know if I'm making it too simple, but I think that circumstances place us in different parts of life, right? Two people who've possibly been born at the same time, been given the same upbringing, are at very different phases of life at different times. So I think I'm at that phase in life where I don't have any responsibilities, and therefore I have the ability to experiment more, to think more, to be more open about things because, well, I have the fluidity for that in terms of everything. But maybe another person in my stage or at my age or somebody who is married, has kids, has a whole running responsibility, is balancing too many things, might not have the opportunity of thinking about things or being so open or be willing to go out for so many new things. So I think it's also life and where you are in life.
Exactly, because I think all of us have certain fixed unit of energy that we can spend in a day or in a
So I
lifetime.
think that with more responsibilities, we become a little more closed, right? I mean, I've seen cousins or family members who are not very open to ideas. If I tell them things, they say things like, "Oh, our time is gone." I find that is the scariest statement I've ever heard in this world. That our time has gone, dude. The day you believe your time is gone, it has truly gone. And when we spoke about manifestations, the day you say our time has gone, you're manifesting it. Stop it. Your time has not gone at any given point in time. 60-year-old man started KFC. If he thought his time was gone, you wouldn't have those beautiful Zinger burgers.
I like the KFC story there, and I think a lot of us are taking manifestation the wrong way also. We are constantly indulging into this negative self-talk because sometimes it's very soothing and very comfortable to do it. I think we end up manifesting the wrong things and attracting them in our lives.
Possibly true, but I mean, the most positive story of manifestation I've ever heard is, I'll tell you a story. It's a joke also of sorts. So there's this man, and he prays every day and he's God's favorite and he goes to God and one day he just decides, okay, अगले 25 दिन वो सुबह शाम दोपहर रात भगवान जी से सिर्फ बोलता है, भगवान जी मेरी लॉटरी लगवा दो, भगवान जी मेरी लॉटरी लगवा दो, सवेरे उठ के भगवान जी लॉटरी लगा दो, दोपहर को उठ के लॉटरी लगा दो, शाम को उठ के लॉटरी लगा दो. He's like, dude, you've not done anything and please give me a lottery. And one day God gets really frustrated. And he looks at him and he says, यार दोस्त सुन ना, तेरी लॉटरी में लगवा दूंगा बट टिकट तो खरीद. I think that is the story of manifestations also. That yes, you got to manifest things, you got to ask for them, but you also have to be willing to work for them. You have to buy the bloody ticket your own way. And only then that can the universe conspire to make things happen for you. So it's not going to be just sitting in a corner and hoping for things. And yes, like you said, it's very important. I think a lot of times women specifically are very negative to themselves. I've always been like that, especially about the way we look, the way we talk. I think Kajol in a recent interview said that till she was in her 30s, she never thought she was beautiful. Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I think that's true for a lot of women.
But do you think you're beautiful?
Do I think I'm beautiful? Oh, I hate that question. I don't know. I wish I could be the person who says, of course I am. I'm beautiful and I'm gorgeous, and that Insta trend that, hey, you're gorgeous and you're beautiful. I can't even do the damn trend. So my self-belief needs to. But do I think that I have accepted myself and do I look nice? Yes. Do I think that I carry myself well? Yes. Do I think I'm beautiful? I will get there one day, but I still haven't got there. I wish I would. And I hope I do get
But
there.
I like the way you are very conscious about the things about yourself. I mean, they are somewhere in your awareness, even if you're not yet there in saying that,
they've come into my consciousness, yes. And I think that's good because, I mean, you figure out a problem and then you can solve it if you don't think there's a problem. So I think that I've become more conscious of things that I'd like to do over the next few years, the places I'd like to go personally in the journey within over the next few years, about calling yourself beautiful, about accepting things, about being less cynical, about being more open. Mm-hmm. I think I'd like to be that person, and I hope I get to be that person.
But the way you're talking, I can sense that a lot of things are in your spectrum of awareness. And that is, I think, the first and the most toughest thing to do. Because once they come in your awareness, like you said, if you don't know the problem, you can't solve it. So once they come in your awareness, you at least are interacting with those issues on everyday basis.
You become conscious of them. I'm hoping that I'm there.
So now that you have these things in your awareness, what are your top 3 ways of taking the journey within?
Ooh, the journey within. So the other day I wrote a long Instagram post and it was about the fact that why is it that I need to care for people outside to bring self-validation to me inside? Which is what we spoke about relationships, which is what I spoke about relations, which is what I spoke about friends. And I think that I love having people around me. I love having a partner around me, but I also need to know that I'm all right on my own. And I think that the day you accept yourself and you're okay with yourself and being alone is when I think you become a great partner for somebody else, because then it's not need-based. It's actually love and like-based. So yes, that I know, and that's something that I believe I am at that stage of. So one is that. Second, I'd like to meditate a little bit more. I'd like to, for currently, honestly, on this day that we're shooting this episode, can I meditate? No, I can't even close my eyes to meditate. Why do I want to meditate? I don't know what meditation brings to you because I've never done it. I've heard of people's stories about changing their lives, etc. I think I just want to find, for me, meditation is going to be this place where you sort of center. That's all.
I think for me, meditation is that time period for which you allow yourself to be nobody, do nothing, and be okay with that. Because we are constantly doing so much and we want to do so much and we are juggling constantly so much that we don't allow ourselves the window to do nothing. And when that opportunity comes or when we want to put the brakes, then it just terrifies us so much that what do I do with this extra time?
No, that doesn't happen with me. I sleep a lot. I wish I could be that person who's constantly... I have a lot of time on my hands. I have a lot of time to read, to be out, to go for a walk, to just sit and stare into space. I've done that. We all have a lot of time, and I'll tell you how do I know that. Because if you look at the number of Instagram reels you've scrolled in a day, you know that you have a lot of time. अगर आप ऐसे करके 1 घंटा निकाल सकते हो तो आप किसी भी चीज़ के लिए निकाल सकते हो. What I think meditation might help me is to be even for 10 minutes okay with silence and okay with being just by myself. I would like to learn that. To be peaceful. I think that's something that I'd like to. And the third is this whole thing that, Bollywood heroines say, which I've heard them say since I was a child. My body is my temple. I want to come.
Is your body not your temple?
My body is currently not my temple. My body is a place where I store food. So I like to make it a temple which I worship. It just has a very different dirty connotations as well, but we're not going there. What I mean to say is that I think I've reached that stage where you realize that your body is going to stay with you till the end. And it's time to make it more healthier. It's time to make it more active. It's time to just treat it the way it should be. And, respect it.
Exercising could be a great way to find your journey within, because it teaches you so much more about yourself, your potential, your vision, your goals, and what you like, what you don't like. It's a holistic journey on its own.
So now personal trainers, hit me up, slide into my DMs. We're just finding people through this interview.
So people
absolutely,
from
please.
Varied backgrounds can apply.
Yes, please, slide into my DMs. See, right into it. If you're into exercise, if you can teach me how to exercise. I'm the most indisciplined, and also I find it very boring if you make me do anything 2 times regularly. So if you can keep up that pace, please slide.
I don't even know how to respond to this unapologetically. I am at a position in my life where I'm okay with people sliding into my DMs. I'm inviting rather.
Yeah, DM slide. Just slide into it.
Ginnie, we have spoken about a bunch of things here, very serious stuff, fun stuff. But on a parting note, I want to know from you your definition of success.
I was watching this show called Jubilee, which is on Prime, and I think it's brilliant. It's done by Vikramaditya Motwane. And yesterday itself, in one of the episodes, one of the characters, whose name I've forgotten, describes success. He says, success for me is the ability of doing whatever I want to do at the time I want to do, and to have the flexibility to do it. And I think that's what success is. Because that would ensure that you have a certain amount of money that you can afford to do it, that you have no such bonding with money that you're constantly running after it and not enjoying it. You have the ability and the time to invest in things that you like to do. You're more open about things, and the fact that you do things that make you happy should be the definition of success.
That means that you've figured out what you like to do. I think that figuring out, finding what you like to do.
It could not just be a career choice. It could just be what you want to eat, where you want to drive, where you want to go for a holiday, where the people that you'd like to spend time with. I think that's very essential. So, I mean, if you have the ability to do all of that, you're successful. Money does not define success.
Absolutely, not just in terms of your career, because if you ask a person what's your favorite color, most of the people don't know that. What's your favorite food? I eat anything, I eat everything. So figuring out what I like and what I don't is, I think, a great place to start to sort of measure your success, or
what's
at least
the ice cream
knowing.
Flavor you like?
Chocolate, I guess. That's something that I've been pretty clear.
She's figured out what
There's something that I figured out very early on in my life, and I stuck to it.
Chocolate is very good.
Until I had gone to the US and I tried these flavors, pecan pie and, mint berry. And I was like, these flavors I never had, and they're so amazing. And my God, this is beautiful.
See, that is the ability to enjoy your time and to try out new things. And I think that's, the weirdest ice cream I've had. Sorry, this just completely takes it off. I think I was in London, and there was this ice cream parlor, and it serves ice cream made of breast milk. And I was like, dude, I don't want to taste it. It's disgusting. But yeah, that is the weirdest ice cream flavor
But did you like it?
I didn't taste it. It was at Covent Garden. I still remember. It's a tiny ice cream shop, and they sell ice cream made of breast milk. And I was like,
this sounds weird.
I didn't want to eat ice cream after that.
You definitely top my weirdest ice cream thing. The weirdest ice cream that I tasted, it was about 8-10 years ago. Salted caramel was not a flavor back then. So when I had it first time, I think somewhere in Germany, it's like, how can ice cream be salty? What is this flavor?
God, I love this salted
and
caramel
I love it
flavor.
so much.
I love
it
meat and
so
namkeen
much
together. But,
I think we are going after this for a salted caramel at least.
Absolutely. I love our conversation, from where it goes to where. Nobody can define that. But yes.
I like the kind of bandwidth we have in
can
our
go anywhere.
conversation and the ability to just go everywhere. But Ginny, I really like the way you have a lot of clarity about yourself, and in the areas where you have not yet made it to where you want to be or where you see yourself, you at least acknowledge that, and you at least know that there is work that needs to be done there. And that's a brave position to be in, and I applaud you for that. And I really hope that you find more and more areas and avenues where you find your journey within, and just keep making yourself happy and others happy through the lovely work that you do, through the lovely human being that you are.
Oh, thank you. It's like Shobha started this show by saying that this show is about finding out people who've become the best versions of themselves. I hope I get there soon enough. But I think it's been amazing. I've always been on the other side. I hate answering questions, but you made me very comfortable. It's been the funnest 1 hour. Thank you.
Thank you so much for coming on the podcast. I had such a great time, and I really hope interacting with you for, let's say, other few episodes also, probably.
Absolutely. I promised Shobha that whenever she reaches 50th episode of this podcast, and I'm putting it on record, we change sides and I'm the one asking questions. That's a deal.
Like you said,
It's a deal.
I don't know if I have the wisdom or the capacity or enough experiences to answer the questions.
Slide into her DMs if you want. This one. You slide into her DMs that does she have the wisdom and should she be interviewed? I think yes. Hi, my name is Ginny. मुझे आप generally radio पे सुनते हैं, but please watch me on The Journey Within with Shobha Rana, who's made me talk so much that it's unbelievable. RJ भी इतना बोलते मुझे नहीं पता था. But really do subscribe to this podcast. It gives you a lot of insights about people and their lives, and that's why I love it.